Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Hernandez, and I am a coordinator at the Office of International Education and Programs here at SUNY Oswego. And today we're going to be talking about how to apply for a passport. Having a U.S. passport is one of the most valuable pieces of documentation that you can ever own as a U.S. citizen. This little piece of paper can get you access to over 184 countries and territories visa-free. So what you can do with this piece of paper is you can access the world. You can travel anywhere that you want to and really experience new places and things. We know during this pandemic, it's really hard to get perspective in a global way. We want to keep you guys envisioning the future of travel. And one way to do that is to be proactive. Applying for a passport can take up to 3 months. So we want to get you started on this process and show you how to do it in the most effective manner. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, a little quick presentation. We'll go over all the pieces of information that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today as well. So why have a passport? In addition to what I just mentioned about being able to visit over 184 locations, we also see that there are other beneficial reasons. Domestic travel can also benefit from having a passport. In 2021, we are seeing the US Department of State starting to require US passports for some types of domestic travel. In addition, the US passport can be used as legal ID. So if you're applying for a driver's license, if you needed to go somewhere and have identification, you can use a US passport, and oftentimes that's what I use. It's also a nice peace of mind. If you have a US passport already, you never have to be worried about whether or not you can go internationally or you can go and visit another location because you do have the ability to get your passport immediately. And so now that we see all the reasons that why you should have a US passport or what you can do with one once you have one, we can see how you can apply for one. So there are a few simple steps in applying for a US passport. If you are a US citizen and you are not a US citizen, the steps for this are going to be fairly the same. You will need some types of supporting documents, and we'll go through those identification factors in a little bit. You'll also need to fill out the same passport forms. You'll need a photo ID, form of payment. So like most documentation items in the United States, you will have to pay for it. And so we'll go over that step as well. Submitting how and where to submit your application, and then the timeline about how long it's going to take for you to actually get your new application and your new passport. So the forms. The forms will be a DS-11 or a DS-82. Those depend on whether or not you've already had a passport before or whether or not you're applying for the first time. Then you're going to print out those forms. You can also get them from an application facility. So that'll be like if you're going to the post office, you can collect the forms from there. When you print the forms off yourself, you must print them out one-sided. They will not be accepted if they're two-sided forms. And you must also fill out all the application materials in black ink only. It is important to look at these little nuances when applying for a passport because any little thing could get your application rejected. Supporting documentation. So as I mentioned, you will need proof of US citizenship and of US identity. So a photocopy or in black and white or a copy that has been certified of each of these documents can be submitted to the US Department of State. Proof of identity includes documents like an in-state, fully valid driver's license with a photo ID, valid or expired US passport books, a US military or military dependent card, certificate of citizenship. So those can all be used for proof of identity. And then for proof of citizenship, you can have a fully valid, undamaged US passport, and it can be expired. And then we have also a US birth certificate that meets the following requirements. It's been issued by the city, country, county, or state that you were born in, your full name, date of birth, place of birth, and also it has to have your parents' full names on it. We'll also go into a list of the other documents that can be submitted if you're not a US citizen in a little bit. A photo. So you do need to submit a photo with your application. It has to be a 2x2 photo. It could be in color, and it has to be taken within the last 6 months. You have to take off your eyeglasses for the photo, and you should use a plain white background or an off-white background. If you're getting your photo taken professionally, like at Walmart, CVS, even ID and Dining Services can do them for you. It's only going to cost about $10, and usually it's a lot simpler. I do recommend that you get it done professionally, but you can get it done, right in your own house with like a DSL camera. Payments. So you do have to pay to get a passport. it is an incredibly valuable document. So in the grand scheme of things, I do think that it is worth the investment. A passport lasts in the United States about 10 years if you're over the age of 16. So it is going to last you a long time relatively. You can pay with checks. It could be personal certified cashiers or a money order, but they all have to be made out to the US Department of State. If you're getting a passport book, it's going to cost you about $110. If you're getting a passport card, it's $30. The processing fee that you pay to the post office is $35, and the ability to travel the world, priceless. So what I tell students is if you are applying for a passport book for the first time, I highly recommend getting a passport card with it. It is an additional $30. You don't have to get it, but there are a lot of benefits to having a passport card. Like you can enter Canada and Mexico with a passport card without needing the actual passport book. You can also use a passport card as identification. It's like the size of a license. It fits right in your wallet. I also like having a passport card in foreign countries because if I'm walking around, some countries require that I keep a passport on me, but I don't want to keep the actual passport book in case something happens. So I just keep my passport card on me. That's a good option, especially if you need to entry into just certain locations, things like that. So highly recommend keeping a passport card on you if you want. At the $30 is definitely worth it. The processing fee is actually paid separate from the passport fees. So that $35 is just paid to the acceptance facility. In this case, if you're applying in Oswego, that would just be the post office. The post office literally just charges you $30 to accept the materials. I know that's a lot of money just to accept documents, but that's how much they charge. So overall, it's going to end up costing you about $175 with everything if you do decide to get the book and the card. Submitting your documents is fairly simple. You're going to collect all the documents and forms that we've talked about before. So the actual DS-11 or DS-82s, the proof of identity, the proof of citizenship, and a copy of any of those items. You're going to also submit your payment form, so that check or money order that you have for the US Department of State. Then you can get all of those things ready and you're going to take it to an acceptance facility. We will look at how to find acceptance facilities, but if you are applying at Oswego, the nearest one is just the Oswego post office. And then we're going to ship off the application. It's super simple. They do it for you right there. They package it all up and they send it out. Processing times for a passport are varied. Routine processing times are about 10 to 12 weeks. So that's the 3 months approximate that we give students. Expedited fees are about 4 to 6 weeks and cost you an additional $60. So if you wanted to get it sooner, you could, but you do have to pay a little bit more. And then emergency processing times are immediate. So there are facilities in the United States that will process a passport for you immediately. It's only in extenuating circumstances and you do have to travel a lot to get it done. So I have had students do this before, like they ended up needing a passport immediately and traveled to the nearest facility for this. The nearest emergency processing facility for a US passport in New York to us is in Buffalo. So if you did need this, you would have to go to Buffalo to get that done. And so now we're going to take a quick peek at some of the options we have. We have the documents here. There we go. So this is the US Department of State website for passports. It's really easy to utilize. I highly recommend checking out if you are applying for a passport and you need more information. Everything that we talked about and then some is located right here. It is really helpful. I always recommend if you're doing travel information and looking how to apply for a US passport or apply and renewing your US passport, you really should only be using government websites. So anything that ends in .gov, you don't want to be putting your information into a system that isn't certified or it doesn't make it clear where that information is going to. So when we're talking about our forms here, you can see the forms that you'll be needing. Different forms for different people. So a DS-11, application for a first time, renewal applications, special circumstance applications for a US passport, things like that. We'll also see you can do citizenship evidence here. So we can talk about what you'll need to submit as valid citizenship evidence. If you were born outside the United States, there are exceptions for you as well. So you can submit a US passport if you've already had one, a consular report of birth abroad or certificate of birth abroad. Your naturalization certificate can be used and also your certificate of citizenship can be used. So all different options for you. We also have the photo identification basically submission rules. So anything that you would need if you were going to be doing that that photo ID. So you have your primary and your secondaries. So your primaries are all those that we were talking about. Your green card can be used as a photo ID if you would like. You also, if some Mexican citizens have a consular ID, you can use that. You can use your foreign passport if you have one of those. So if you're a dual citizen or you're applying for a US passport for the first time, you can use a foreign passport. And then we have all of these other documentation. I typically say to students, just use your driver's license or your government federal ID if you have one. If you do not have any of the primary identification options, you can use secondary IDs. I don't recommend it, but you can. You have to submit at least 2 if it comes from the secondary list here, but you can check all of those. And so those are things that you're going to be needing for identification. And then we have our passport photos, just the basic photos like we had talked about, but this just talks about the basics, the resolution, print, things like that that you can be using. Passport fees are also listed out here. They have a fee calculator and a fee chart, fees broken down by what you're applying for, and fees broken down by payment method. So there's all kinds of information there on how to pay. They make sure that you know how you could pay for your passport. And then we have our processing times listed here. It's pretty self-explanatory. These ones really don't change. There really is no option besides the 10 to 12 weeks, the 4 to 6 weeks, or an emergency expedited at an agency. They are really flexible and they are there to help you. So this is something that I would say, like, I've had really great results with students getting passports really easily. So definitely no worries on that. And then you can do your where to apply. So once you get to your where to apply, you will see something like this from the US Department of State. You type in your zip code and all of the certified acceptance facilities will come up. Like I said, the one in Oswego, the nearest one to you guys is going to be just the post office. If we're looking at the form, this is what it will look like when you go to print out the form if you are printing it out for the first time. You can select up here what you're going to be getting, the book, the card, or both. And then you would usually get a regular book. A large book is really only for people who are traveling for work or if they've previously had a passport and they've run out of pages. So really I would just say get both and check regular book. Then you're going to fill out all of your information here, date of birth, place of birth, basic information that you can find for yourself, your social security number and your email, primary contact information number, and your mailing address is going to go here. This is where your photo is going to be stapled. Do not touch any of the white information. Then this will be where you put your parental information. So any of your parents or your guardians is listed on your birth certificate would likely go here. So you would need to know their like place of birth, date of birth, citizenship information, and also their sex. If you've ever been married, you will need to figure out all of that information. So for number 11, you'll put that there. If you haven't, then you just move past it. Occupation for students is just students. And then your employer for number 14 or school is just the school that you attend. So SUNY Oswego. And then you have all of this information here. If you have travel plans, you can submit them there. So for example, if you're getting ready to go on a trip or if you're filling this out for a study abroad application, you can put where you're going to be going. If not, you can leave that blank. And then your permanent address you can list here if it's different than your mailing address that you put above. And then if you've ever applied for a US passport or passport card, then you can put that information here. I do tell students to remember that the mailing address that you put here is where they're going to be returning your passport to. We have had students who submitted information with this mailing address and then later realized that they didn't want it sent there. So definitely let you know this is where they're going to be sending your passport. I would really recommend you guys check out this website. It is really nice to see all the information that the US Department of State puts out there for people in general looking to apply for passports. There's all kinds of information, even when COVID, that you can check out. The routine processing times haven't really changed, so it is good to see that things are running business as usual as of right now. They also have a really fantastic YouTube channel at the US Department of State for applying for a passport, so there are cute little videos and instructional information, so in case you're looking to do that, you can check those out as well. I would definitely recommend that you guys continue to seek out new opportunities when you're studying abroad, being proactive and looking for ways to engage in a global space, because in the future we will be able to resume and adventure is still out there. And so we really hope that in any way that we can help, we'll get you there. So if you have any questions about applying for a US passport, I highly recommend that you reach out to a study abroad coordinator, talk to your parents, or even consult with somebody from the US Department of State. If you have any questions, we're always one click away at the Office of International Education and Programs here at SUNY Oswego.